welcome to Global Business. I am Imewale Uhiamokai. Today's program is dedicated to medium, small, micro businesses, and we're in one of them. Of course, this is what we will call a joint in Abuja. A joint is a small place people come in to relax, especially in the evenings. So I'm relaxed here, and you'll be seeing how I'll be eating my fish later on the program. I'll be talking to some of the people who do businesses in such joints in Abuja and see how profitable such businesses are. So today's program is dedicated to medium, micro, small businesses, especially the micro businesses. Now let's see what's been happening in the polity. The World Bank predicts that Nigeria will come out of recession before the end of 2017 and will actually grow by 1.2% by the end of 2017. Nigerians are eagerly looking forward to coming out of recession. Of course, the next GDP results, which will be in the next quarter, or by the end of this quarter rather, we'll be seeing what Nigeria's stance is as it concerns recession. But where Nigeria is trying to come out of recession, South Africa has slipped into recession. Of course, South Africa, this is the second time in a decade South Africa is slipping into recession. It's the first time in 8 years. Of course, the economy contracted 0.7% in the first 3 months of 2017. In quarter 4 of 2016, it contracted 0.3%. And of course, we know that there's been some form of political instability, the Zuma factor. Even the ANC has come up to say that Zuma may not end his tenure as president. He may be removed as president, even though he has survived about 3 or 4 confidence votes, of course, from the Congress in South Africa. There's high unemployment in South Africa. In fact, it has skyrocketed in the last 2 quarters. Of course, credit rating has been downgraded. The credit rating for South Africa has been downgraded. The trade, catering, and accommodation industry are the worst hit in the last 2 quarters. So, talking about unemployment or employment, unemployment and those who are unemployable have risen in Nigeria. The unemployment rate for quarter 4 2016, according to statistics released by the National Bureau of Statistics, says that the labor force, which is between 15 and 64 years, now there's the working age population. The working age population was up 0.5% as at quarter 4 2016. In other words, it was 108.03 million at quarter 3. At the end of quarter 3, at the end of quarter 4, it was 108.59 million. The labor force also increased by 0.6% from 80.67 million to 81.15 million. Now, the unemployed population rose from 11.55 million, or rather from 11.19 million to 11.55 million, while the unemployment rate has risen by 14.2%. So that's it for the unemployment. Now, let's talk about whistleblowing. The Nigerian government says that 20 people have gotten over 358 million naira. 358 million naira. 20 people just for blowing a whistle. So, when you blow whistle, be careful the kind of whistle you're blowing. Because while some are getting cash largesse, some others are going to prison. Now, this 358 million naira is just about 3% of what exactly was paid or was they blew the whistle for. 11.6 billion naira is what they blew the whistle for. But then it came to question, I'm asking the question, because if you have to blow a whistle, you have to call a number. And the numbers that were given by the Ministry of Finance is 0909 806 7946. So now we're going to do something. We're going to pretend as if we're going to blow a whistle now and call that number and see whether, remember, this is my phone. I'm calling that number right now to see whether that number is actually working. Let's listen.
The number you dialed is switched off.
Wow.
Please try again later. The number you dialed is switched off. Please Please try again later.
The number I dialed is switched off. And let me tell you, this is not the first time I'm trying it. I've tried it many times before and it's switched off. So how did these people blow the whistle? Is it by email? How many people are actually having access to emails? So it brings to question, really, is it really true some people blew whistles or some people have been paid? The federal government, it's the onus on the side federal government, especially the Federal Minister of Finance, to prove this to us. But today, let's start with this report. It's a report assessing the 3 years on the saddle of Godwin Emefiele, who is the central bank governor. And after that report, we'll have talking point. Talking point is still assessing Godwin Emefiele. So we're looking a lot about Godwin Emefiele as central bank governor. Before Godwin Emefiele's talking point, of course, we will come back and talk to the man who calls himself Testifier. He'll be talking about fish. Not a few Nigerians were excited in 2014 when then-President Goodluck Jonathan appointed the Zenith Bank Managing Director Godwin Emefiele as central bank governor. Knowing Emefiele's antecedents, many people were optimistic that the Nsukka and Stanford University graduate will surmount the challenges he will meet at the CBN. But not even Emefiele was prepared for what he met. There were two major headaches: the foreign exchange market and inflation. The volatile exchange rate market erupted. Speculators were on a rampage. This led to an effort by the CBN in November 2014 to shift the band of the official exchange rate from 155 naira to the dollar to 168 naira to the dollar. But speculators were not giving up. There was an onslaught and the naira continued to weaken. On February 18, 2015, the Apex Bank closed the retail and wholesale Dutch auction market, leaving the interbank as the only official market, and the naira slowing to 197 naira to the dollar. The pressure for foreign exchange increased and the reserves weakened due to global oil price.
It's the primary function of the CBN to save for that period. And what you have the sovereign fund, you have the excess crude oil account. All these funds were depleted. So when the recession hit us, when the oil prices fell down, we're caught now.
Nigeria has a peculiar problem, I would say, because we have crude oil as our major foreign exchange earner. It's just a single commodity. In a population of about 170 million, that depends on single commodity for their foreign exchange earnings. That is not good. So there's so much pressure on the little foreign exchange available to the country.
In June 2016, the Central Bank of Nigeria redesigned the Forex framework. This did not seem to help as the rates plummeted to as high as 475 naira to the dollar. In February 2017, with a slight increase in global oil price, which led to a boost in reserves, the CBN started a regular intervention in the forex market. So, based on the mandate of the Central Bank of Nigeria derived from its statutes, the CBN Act of 2007, which is to, among other things, ensure monetary and price stability, maintain external reserves to safeguard the international value of the legal tender currency, which is the naira, and act as banker and provide economic and financial advice to the federal government. How has Emefiele fared?
Given exchange rate, the mandate of maintaining exchange rate stability, the mandate of inflation, the CBN has, in my view, done well. That of interest rate, I've also mentioned that yes, it's difficult to pursue the two at the same time, but in my view too, over this period of time, interest rates could have been a little lower.
Anyone that has an idea of how the central bank is run, we know that, it's done some good things, and there are things that it has not done very well. For instance, in terms of the developmental function of the CBN, the bank under its control has come in to intervene to support certain critical sectors of the economy.
And I'll rate their performance in the past 3 years at 40%, because in economics, or as an economist, how we rate performance of an economy is by reduction in poverty, reduction in unemployment, and reduction in inflation.
One major intervention of the Central Bank of Nigeria, which is making an impact with farmers, is the Anchor Borrowers Program. Launched in November 2015 under the program, 40 billion naira was set aside from the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Fund for farmers at a single-digit rate of 9%. As at March 31, 2017, 33.34 billion naira have been given to almost 150,000 farmers.
The farmers must come as a group of between 5 and 20. That is the major criterion. And then when they come as a group, they must register with a participating, they must open an account with a participating bank from where the disbursements will be made.
We are going to train them on embarking on rice production as a business.
One of the challenges the farmers usually have while producing is how to access facilities such as funds, rice seed. The Anchor Borrowers program is done to ensure that farmers will move from the small-scale farming then to commercial farming.
One of the most controversial policies of the Central Bank of Nigeria was the banning of 41 items from accessing foreign exchange. Many condemned this ban, saying that it was detrimental to the economy. But as time went on, it was obvious this ban was also very good for many businesses.
Since you apply this policy, it's the first time that we turn to profit. Not only that, the profit that we are making now, we are investing. We already have on order machinery from overseas to expand.
It's not even a welcome idea, but a perfect idea. If that was not done, now I don't think even the country has any dollar to import anything that are even basics to our life.
As Emefiele goes to his fourth year, what should the CBN be looking at?
And when Emefiele came in as well, one of the things he said was that he's going to beat interest rate down, and in doing so, create employment. But that has not happened.
Okay, so I would love a situation where the CBN would ease monetary policy over this period of time, especially given the recession that we're in, to ease monetary policy. Is because of the high interest rate, for example, that we have seen some crowding out, in the economy. The government, practically crowds out the private sector.
I told you that we're going to be talking fish business today, and I'm with someone who is into fish business. We're talking about how he gets the fish. What's the business like? It's a small business, actually a micro business that is right here in Abuja. And we'll see how much they used to start this kind of business. He calls himself Testifier, but I'm sure that's not his real name. Testifier, welcome. Now tell me, what's your real name?
My real name is Onyeka Anechem.
Onyeka Anechem. Yeah. Now, why did you choose that name, Testifier?
I choose the name Testifier because I believe it's what you eat. What you eat, you testify to it.
So everyone that eats of your fish will give a testimony.
Exactly.
Now, tell me.
Yes.
Fish. I know Nigeria used to import fish. Yes, exactly. But how easy is it to get this fish? Because I know this is not the usual fish. Exactly. How do you get this fish?
Basically, Nigeria here, the people that rear fish most is the Yorubas from Ibadan. So we normally get it direct from Ibadan.
So you get your fish from Ibadan? Exactly. So you mean the fish ponds all over Abuja are not enough?
No. It's not enough. Even down in our Port Harcourt branch, the fish that they normally get there, even other states in Nigeria, is directly from Ibadan. Because as they say that the Fulanis rear cow, so is the Yorubas in Ibadan farm fish.
Okay. Yes. Now tell me, because the fish business is actually a business that
lucrative business.
It's lucrative, isn't
Exactly.
it? That's what I was going to ask. Why do you say it's lucrative? Tell me about it.
Because I started small, you understand?
How much did you use to start, by the way?
I can't really remember, but all I know is that I started small. I was just like selling maybe 2, 1. At times I won't sell, you understand? But today, Testifier has so many spots in Abuja and beyond.
And how many do you sell in a day, like in one spot?
In one spot, I can't really say, but I sell a lot quantity in one spot.
Wow. Okay, tell me, how much do you make in a day? If you can't tell me how much do you make in a day?
I can't really say, but I make quite a lot.
No, we want to know. Okay, if you cannot tell us how much you make in a day, probably you can tell us how much you make in a month. In one spot.
In a month, in one spot. Let me say, hundreds of thousands.
Hundreds of thousands.
Yes, exactly.
And you have to pay rent.
Have to pay rent, pay your workers, and some things as well.
Now, this fish is not the way you serve it is not the usual way that it is served. I noticed that because you do some things to the fish. What exactly do you do?
I would just say it's passion. You understand? I do extraordinarily because you have to be extraordinary for people to recognize, because this is not the only fish in town, you understand? So every week, or let me say monthly, you have to go to market survey, check out things, new things in the market.
Okay, so let's see what you're putting. Okay. I think you have some sauce there.
Some pepper sauce, yes. Pepper sauce, just put it into the fish. And
I'm sure those who are watching now are salivating already. And that's cucumber, isn't it?
Exactly.
And you mean you do all this while it's on fire?
Exactly.
This is cooking. And I'm patiently waiting for it to cook. I'm sure you want to join me when it's cooked. Let's go to Talking Point, and we're talking to Ken Ife, and he'll be telling us or assessing the central bank governor's tenure, his 3rd year in office. Hello, welcome to Talking Point on Global Business. And today we're looking at the central bank governor. Is in line with the theme of what we have been looking at on the program today. You saw that report. And so we'll have someone who will be doing some more analysis about the central bank governor's 3rd year in office. He's got 2 more years to go in his 1st tenure in office. And of course, you know, it is the prerogative of the president to renew that tenure. Anyway, we've got Professor Ken Ife, who is a developmental economist, a research man, the man who knows so much about African economics also, and knows so much about the Nigerian economic system. Professor Ken Ife, welcome to
Thank you
Global
very much.
Business.
Thank you for
Talking
inviting me.
Point. Of course, you know Ken Ife is no stranger to global business, although with a different scenario right now. So, Prof, my first question is, you know the mandate of the central bank, and the governor, of course, is supposed to act on that mandate.
That's correct.
What's your assessment of Godwin Emefiele 3 years on the saddle?
I think there are 3 key mandates. One of course is on the price and financial system stability, maintaining price and financial system stability. The second one, of course, is acts as the banker to the government, and there's a third one that is not easily understood by many people, which is to act as the banker of last resort. Now that connects to the duty to promote sustainable economic development. There's a connection between those two. And that means that we all look on central bank when there are significant areas of market failure to intervene. So I think we have to analyze the 3 because the performances are variable on those key mandates.
Could we concentrate on probably the last 2?
Right. Okay, in its advisory position, you could see that at the very beginning, the TSA, when it came in, it was good news to some, to the government, but bad news to the financial sector.
there was a sucking away of about 2.2 trillion. And so the bank had to respond to the complaint, the fear by the financial sector that they were going to lose liquidity, and injected in 2 tranches 1.45 trillion naira. But actually gave them an injunction to lend to the real sector. But of course the banks didn't. So the CBN had to come back again to mop up the liquidity. There was another time when immediately the government came in, the Buhari's administration came in, all the governors were up in arms because they couldn't pay salaries. Many of them couldn't pay salaries. There was massive intervention there. You notice that about 600 billion of what they were owing were rescheduled. And about 400 billion also came out. And they set up funds to deal with salary arrears and all that. So if you didn't do that, the banks would have been in serious problem because they had to risk it. So that was another key area. Then, of course, there are many other areas that evolved. When you look at the impact of the 2014 energy crisis, it made the bank react, and it used and exhausted all the monetary tools that it had at its disposal. And if you wanted me to give a historical context to that, I think it's very important. If you're going to assess somebody's performance, you need to take a historical view of where he was when certain things were happening. If you look at 2005, after the recapitalization of the banks, we had a lot of money. We had a lot of money because by then we had about $62 billion in our foreign reserve and about $22.5 billion in our excess crude account. Now, because of that strong position, even after paying out our 12 billion, settling the debts, we still had that kind of money in the coffers. So when the 2008 financial crisis came, which started from America, we were in a very strong position, and Sanusi was in position then. So Sanusi reacted, and of course you know that the AMCOM was set up to mop up the toxic assets, and they did, but it cost the public $5 trillion. 5 trillion naira, would you believe? But the fact of the matter is that having gone through that crisis, the next crisis that came in was a totally different picture, because by the time Emefiele came into office, and you saw what happened, we had 3 exogenic shocks and 1 major endogenic shock on the economy. One is that the revenue collapsed by about 70% due to the drop in the price of crude, and that was triggered by Saudi Arabia, who was responding to the shale oil challenge from America. Then, of course, there were also tension on major supply lines. You know, Russia and the South and the Western Europe, and then you had also in the Gulf, Saudi Arabia. And so there were tensions. So and whenever there are tension, it affects the prices of crude. And so we had all that in the country. So monies began to flee the country. There was no doubt about that.
Okay, so let's look at the banker as a last resort in terms of its interventions in critical sectors of the economy.
Now this is the area where the performance has been outstanding. And I tell you why. I've always had a view that they should widen the attack base, because when you delisted 41 items and then you had nearly 1.4 trillion in intervention fund, I wanted a rigorous action to match that resource to those who are already being decapitated from the foreign exchange, to match them. But that we could have had more success if complementary measures came, because if backward integration measures took it head on, we would have had a better result. But having said that, not only that we have sectoral allocations of credit allocation, as you know, there is allocation to the power sector, there's allocation to every MSME sector, so we have sectoral allocations. But the bank zeroed on agriculture, and then in fact, used the Anchor Borrowers Program and piloted, within 12 months of injecting money, we had 2 million metric tons of rice added into our, I think that was outstanding. And if we could have this sustained over the next 2-3 years, we will kiss goodbye to so much money that goes on importation of raw materials agro-based raw materials. But the same has to be applied to the other sectors.
Thank you very much, Professor Ken Ife. Now, the good thing about this is that the fish is ready. You can eat the fish with your cutlery or with your hands. There's water to wash hand and eat. But I choose to eat with the cutlery for now. And we've had Testifier Onyeka David Anechem, who has taught us how to do fish the Testifier way. And of course, he has also told us that fish business is very lucrative. So you may want to go into that business. He has not revealed his trade secret on how much he used to start, but at least he has told you what he puts in it and of course where he gets his fish. Onyeka, thank you very much for coming on Global Business.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it a lot.
So for me, Imewayo Hyomokai, it's bye for now while I enjoy my fish. Join me some other time.